Hi, Jay Hill, Interim Leader of Wexit Canada, back with you to address another commonly asked question. What do I say to those Westerners who declare that we will never be able to form an economically viable nation because we're landlocked? Well, the first thing I do is try hard not to laugh. The second is to point out that we're already landlocked by the inaction of our Canadian federal government and the unconstitutional action of British Columbia and Quebec. So how could we possibly be any worse off than we are today? Thirdly, I ask them if they're psychic, and if that's how they're able to read the future, because I sure don't have a crystal ball to know how negotiations would unfold following a successful referendum on independence. If the lower mainland of British Columbia and Vancouver Island were cut off and isolated from the remainder of Canada, what would they do? Isn't that an equally fair question to pose? Thanks largely to First Nations, another lesson that we learned from the 1995 Quebec referendum on independence is that if Canada is divisible, then it naturally follows that provinces are as well. What would happen if the entire province of British Columbia, north and east of Hope, voted decisively for independence? Would the majority of the provincial population located in Vancouver and on the island deny the interior's vote for freedom? If the Northwest and the majority of the Indigenous people there voted to secede, wouldn't this give the new nation tidewater ports at Prince Rupert, Kitimat, and Stewart? The short answer is no one knows, and that is why at this point the claim that the new country would be landlocked is premature. This is just another fear tactic by those wishing to quell the Western quest for freedom from Eastern Canada. If the East decided they would rather have us leave than to seriously amend Canada's constitution and the structure of government to treat us fairly, then who knows how the chips will fall. Following successful independence referendums, all we know at this point is there would likely be years of hard-fought discussion, debate, and horse trading. Today, I would also like to revisit a scare tactic that keeps coming up again and again and again, mostly from Conservatives trying to frighten you into voting the way you always have in the past, rather than what you know in your heart is right. They claim that the West must continue to overwhelmingly vote Conservative if you don't want to re-elect Trudeau's Liberal government. Let's clear up this false news right here and right now. First, there are 338 ridings in Canada, obviously represented by 338 members of Parliament. Of those, 231 are east of Manitoba. Unlike when the Reform Party split largely Conservative support with the old Progressive Conservative Party prior to the merger in 2004, Wexit will not be running in any of those constituencies. I repeat, we will not be running east of Manitoba, so we cannot be accused of splitting the Conservative vote down there. Those 231 ridings represent over 2/3 of Canada's MPs. Of the remaining 107 ridings in the West and North, where we may run a candidate, 49 constituencies elected Conservatives by wide margins. Even if their votes were split equally between them and Wexit Canada candidate, it would be impossible, or at least highly unlikely, for a Liberal NDP or Green candidate to win in those ridings. Secondly, in the remainder of the 107 constituents in Canada, West and North, 36 were won by individuals other than Conservatives. Clearly, vote splitting in those ridings was not an issue, as the Conservatives lost them last October all by themselves. That leaves just 22 constituencies that elected Conservatives, but with narrower margins. And yes, in theory, vote splitting could result in electing an MP from another party, but only if we run a candidate in those ridings, and only if we gather sufficient money and volunteers to properly campaign there. So as you can see, by doing the math, it is only in 22 ridings out of 338 that vote splitting becomes an issue, and it could potentially cause a different result than in the last election. What would lead you to believe the Liberals will win all of those 22 Western ridings? Do you seriously believe that the outcome in less than 7% of the ridings could decide the outcome of the next election? Don't let your vote be decided by the Conservative campaign of fear. Vote for what you know is right. Till next time, stay safe.